Yeah, so to start, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Ooh, Lord have mercy. How much time do you have, Destiny?
I mean, I personally want to know it all, so I'm gonna let you
Aw, sweet.
go on.
Uh, I started late in life, around 17, the year before I graduated. I discovered uh, dance through a woman. Her name is Marilyn Coleman, I believe. And she had a company called Dance Dimension. And I had never really heard of it, but when I saw what they did, it was instantly like I resonated with it, and I just had to do it. Like I just had to become not be. I didn't know I had to become a dancer right then, but I just had to dance. Like
Mm,
I had been in gymnastics for years and years, and then you get scared after a while. I mean, if you get scared in gymnastics, you got to stop because it's
yeah.
all scary.
Yeah.
And I was fearless, and then suddenly I wasn't fearless. So it was a good transition into movement just as I was graduating high school. And before I could get out of high school, I realized I wanted to make this my life. And so most people back then they were like, you don't need to go to school for this. I'm like, well, if I don't go to school for it, what do I do? Like, how do I? Because I'm not professional. I ended up going to the University of the Arts and studying everything there, which made me fall in love with everything, like everything from contemporary. I took a lot of grant classes, a lot of Horton classes. Then there was jazz, and there was, I mean, everything.
Yeah.
The only one I didn't really connect to was tap for some reason. But then I realized I really wanted, because I was older, I needed to be in New York. So I left school and went to the Ailey school. And actually, I went to Dance Theater of Harlem first and then went to the Ailey school. And if you know anything about going to those big New York, like behemoth, especially now, schools for dance, it's very competitive. It's really set up to almost be a lengthy audition. And I'm just going to throw that out there. And I definitely learned a lot in both places. I learned even more when I went to City College, and yeah, mostly City College, and then found like companies to apprentice under. So that was my early days. Towards my like eighth year living in New York, I started, maybe not even that, I started creating my own work because I'm also a visual artist, and just making visual art made me want to make dance. I'm
Mm.
honest. The interesting thing is actually dancing wasn't the first impetus for making my own work. So I started doing that. I started showing my work wherever I could. There are all kinds of spaces, dance and art spaces that will allow you to do that, and you can get feedback from those places. And this is back in the 80s and 90s. Um, and then I traveled a little bit. And when I was in Atlanta, I worked with a couple different companies. The dance corps is probably still there. It's just a 5-person ensemble, at least at the time, 5 to 7 dancers. And the other one was Energy, which I don't think is there anymore. Um, and I taught at different places in Georgia. I'm just going to keep rambling until you stop me.
I'm thinking of the questions to follow up, so please
Yeah.
keep going.
I live in Pittsburgh, as some people know, because I had a kidney disorder and had been traveling overseas and came back super sick. And my friend Lisa Barr was doing her residency at AGH, and I ended up getting treated there. And ultimately, because I was so young, in a couple of months with a kidney transplant that lasted me over 20 years.
Wow.
Um, so and I remained here because it just was easier to make art here. You could make art here and you could live really well, relatively speaking, to some of the larger cities I've lived in.
Right.
So I'm here now, and working with our company, which we've had since 2010. Before that, I worked with another company, Xpressions, whose artistic director left for New York at the time. That was back in '06. No, that was back in '01. So I worked with that company for 6 years. And then went back to making my own work for my own company in '06. I started working with Alumni Theater Company. It was more than 10 years ago. The year they were founded.
Okay.
The year that was.
2011, I think, or
2008.
2008. 2008, yeah.
Yeah, and I've taught all over this town. I've taught at Hope Academy for many, 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 many years, at least 8 years. And in the school system, in the Propel system, and ATC, probably starting at '08. And I've had the luxury of creating musicals and choreographing musicals that I've always loved. I can't say always loved, because I never liked musicals until I started working with ATC. And I had done a couple before that, just above my head. Something Mr. Charlie when I was in New York in school there. Yeah, I've done a couple musicals. Actually, the Mr. Charlie one was not a musical. But the most fun was working with ATC on musicals, because what can I say?
That's right.
Brilliance all the way around.
Yeah, we're back here.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So question, when you said when you first kind of discovered you had this like big interest in dance and then ended up studying it in school, what was your thought process then? Were you kind of like, I just have this passion and curiosity right now and I want to follow it? Or, because I know you said you didn't necessarily know that you wanted to be a dancer just yet, but yeah, what was your thought process then?
It was pretty quick, actually, once I discovered it. And then, it's so close to leaving high school. I didn't even know what, in fact, when I think about what my idea of being a dance professional was, it doesn't quite match up to what it actually was, what I know it is now.
Yeah.
And it took me, many years to see, because I didn't have like a mentor, so to speak. I knew I wanted someone to be a certain way in my life that understood. My father was an artist, my mother was a creative, and they were my mentors in life and allowed me the space to do whatever I wanted. But I always longed for what I saw a couple of other young dancers had, like that one person that knew everything about the field and knew people in the field and could help them know what they needed to do to train up, to and help them do that training, and then also introduce them and I was like, that looks like what I need, but I think I wasn't ever good enough to catch their eye, and they didn't know me or whatever. I just threw myself into things and expecting people would be like me, like, yay, there's a person.
Right.
Like butterflies flying around, and people aren't like that.
I know. And it's
like that.
Really
the world isn't like that.
It doesn't make sense.
They see you as competition first. But I don't think that was the case. I think it's just that they didn't know me and they blah, blah, blah. And I was super new.
Yeah.
And mentored myself. I took whatever I could from wherever I could, and I just worked hard. I was always a really hard worker.
Yes.
Does that answer?
Yeah, no, because I feel that too. It's hard when, or like you kind of want people to see your potential too, but like people aren't looking that deeply in to see it, and
no,
you
they
have
won't.
to like find the people who will, or see it for yourself until everyone else does.
Yes. I mean, of course, it's a different world out here now.
Yeah.
And that's not that different in that way, but it is. There are other ways, I think, now.
Like what?
Like it depends on what you want to and figuring it out. I think that like the internet has opened the world up a lot. And so you can get so many perspectives from so many people, and on how, like, for instance, when I'm probably her same age or older, but what's the sister's name? Choreographed for Aaliyah and Missy Elliott. She's still choreographed. Anyway, she was a hip hop artist slash choreographer who, I'm gonna think of her name in a second, who taught herself to dance and just was strong enough and like had the will enough to just jump in. So she's jumping into not only the dance community but also the hip hop community.
Right.
Nuts.
The whole entertainment.
Wait, you can go online and look her up. It's not Tabitha.
Fatima.
Yes. Brilliant woman. And just reading about her at a time when I think I was in New York at the time, just gave me a lot of drive and confidence. Like, you know, here she was able to do it. Of course, my field is a little different than hers, but you know, that's an avenue that dancers and artists have more of now. You know, I used to go to the museum for inspiration. But and I could go to the library and see video because the New York Library has this whole, at Lincoln Center has a whole setup that's beautiful, this archive that's gorgeous. But I was lucky that I could do that because at the time you couldn't do that living in another city. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the internet wasn't like accessible that way. Now you pick up your phone and look up anybody and, you know, let that help to inspire you.
Right.
So.
Love that. Okay. And so you did that, you went through school, you danced, and you said you were at transferred to like Dance Theater of Harlem, Alvin, Ailey. Were you mainly like you were taking classes there and kind of just continued your training through those schools?
Oh yeah, I was in their programs. Their training programs. I didn't stay long at dance theater. I didn't have enough faith in myself to really, like, I could go and audition and get into their program, but I really thought I was too fat. I thought I just didn't have, like, I also felt like I wanted to be more versatile, and I knew that Ailey dancers were extremely versatile. And that was even more for my spirit than it was like thinking of, I need to be more versatile to be booked. I was thinking, in my life, I need to be more versatile because that's what my life is calling for. I feel like I can't be stifled into one style or another. So I left there and went to Ailey in their certificate program.
Nice.
It's a 2-year program.
Sorry?
It's a 2-year program.
Oh, 2 years. Okay. I didn't know that actually.
Yeah,
that's like an interesting point too, because like in thinking about your work, what I've seen recently with some of y'all, but there's just some of your other work too, I can see that thread continuing of like the versatility and not wanting to be in that one box. So like, how would you say that was a big point for you, kind of discovering that for yourself and then following through on it and being like, I'm going to challenge myself to like stretch in these different ways, and then how do you see that relating to your work also?
Yeah, I think it's the one thing I got right.
There were a lot.
No, this is, you know, life is hard, but like,
yeah,
this journey for me was full of, like, I don't want to say trepidation. That sounds super dramatic. Because there was a lot of joy in it, and I refused to do anything else. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I had doctors say you should stop dancing, but I think that you know, when I look back, it's definitely my versatility that kept me happy being a dancer, or in a dance maker as well as an artist, and it's kept me. I don't want to say sane. It's just been the most fulfilling aspect of like when I decided to make work, I never felt uh, limited to any kind of genre or style or method, and I could feel and know the benefit to all the different um, styles and techniques that I've learned, and they all served me one way or another. And then I was also a cross trainer, so I could also get the benefit of swimming and lifting weights. When at a time when they were inspiring you to do that, they would say, "Oh, if you're going to be a dancer, you don't want the muscles of a swimmer or a weightlifter." And I quickly found, this is in my early 30s, like this is what's going to keep my body moving into my 50s. It's a whole other story, and just feeling natural in any combination of aesthetic that I was able to practice and learn, and finding the common thread throughout, and how say one methodology can support the other. Like I was better in ballet because I swam regularly, or because I don't know, because of the strength that Horton gives you in your sagittal plane, or that ballet doesn't, because you have to turn out all the time. It's incredible. And without that, if you have that training in all the different things, whatever you choose, it might be yoga and Horton, or it's it gives your career longevity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because your body and your muscles get trained, don't get overtrained in one modality. You're training on all of them, so that not just your turnout muscles are strong, but also your parallel muscles and you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I think that was the best thing I did for myself. And
that's
the most fun.
really amazing. I didn't know that. That's something like I think about too, just in general, but also for your own enjoyment, is like finding those other ways, like other forms of movement that you enjoy, because that's gonna like give you more sustainability with it, but also help in the other practices, which is always really cool to see that, like, oh, okay, this thing that I like doing just as equally or more can help me in this other way.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Just don't stop moving. It's the motto.
Yes. I'm gonna keep that and remember it.
Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Another question I have is, what do you enjoy most about your work?
I like discovering new things about storytelling or presentation within or for movement. I like exploring with it. I like exploring with other people with it. Discovering new processes, different ways to express through movement, thoughts, and emotions, and how can this thought become a movement phrase, and how can that be changed into a movement phrase that is expressing something different, and learning from audiences what moves them, and how we can move them through getting their responses from our work.
Yeah. How do you learn about the audience and what is moving them?
So in their direct and spontaneous responses to the work is always the most satisfying in the time that it's happening. And then also the feedback we get a lot of feedback from different people as to what they felt about our work and how it moved them, and also I can sense them relinquishing expectation. A lot of times we get asked, what is this going to be? What story are you telling exactly? And blah blah, and what music are you using to tell that story, and blah blah blah. And most of what we do is um, original. So the sound is original, and it's usually a new vocabulary that we're using. Oftentimes, it's um, a shared discovery with the dancers. I like to work with dancers who make their own work or are interested in making work, because they always come up with interesting things that we can collaborate to make a synergetic like experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Giving them credit for what they are bringing to the table, whether it's their performance quality and or actual movement and gesture building. So that's often fun. But then I also love just making up steps. I love a good unison, like nothing else. There's nothing more powerful for me than to see bodies moving in space together and watching them move really well together. The dancers I have right now do just that. Yeah.
Very powerfully too.
I know, I'm really impressed with them.
Yeah. Of watching it. How, if any, like does that audience, like, reaction or whatever, like how does that impact your work, if it does impact it?
Well, there. I can't say that it does not, but it's not the direct influence to what we do next.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Decide that we want to extend our exploration of Octavia Butler and her work. That's not necessarily because audience members said they want to see that.
Right.
Overall mission of Blackness and platforms for Black women. But that is it. And so we're who you come to if that's what you're interested in, basically.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I like that idea too, though, of like, I mean, you're creating it for yourself, and then, the people that you're working with. And so the people who are into that too will find you, and will see that same value in what you're creating. I was also wondering too about your process. You talked before about when you were in New York, like going to museums and stuff. What's your process now, and then how has that changed over time too? And then mentioning Octavia Butler just now as well, like there's of course lots of different inspirations I'm sure you draw from.
Yeah, I mean, as I get older, I find myself more interesting.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
it's kind of like, what do I feel like talking about or exploring now, or like, what about myself do I find so interesting, and how do I share that? And so, I feel like the older I get, the more free I am about what it is that I put on stage, and what it is that I develop to put on stage, and sometimes it means not knowing exactly what that's going to be, but wanting to start in a certain place. Like maybe there's something I saw and some colors that you know what I mean? Like red and purple are doing it for me right now, and I'll journal from that space, and then it usually brings up something in the world that's happening, and then I go from that to, if that's not the most positive thing, how do I reassure, how do I present to the world positive alternative and or positive pathway out through like just sheer human soulful joy, like how do we all capture that and stay in that space no matter what is happening, and how do we multiply that, because we started out as a company and told these stories and responded to the world directly and spontaneously, and we spent a lot of time talking about the terrible things that are done to people of color in this world.
Mhm.
And it's like we're preaching to the choir, and we're reopening wounds over and over again for young people that I'm working with, who get younger and younger, by the way. And it's just like I stopped wanting to do that a good 7 years ago. I'm like, that's not going to be my job anymore. So I think my overall, just to kind of wrap up answering your question, my overall mission in the work that we present to the world is it's not so passive, but it is resistance. And it's by, as opposed to preaching to the choir, finding heartful solutions and experiences to share with audiences that bring joy and hope beyond hope to joy and fulfillment, and recognizing the love and recognizing that within our communities that go beyond our audiences, so to speak.
Right.
So it's kind of like what we want to like present and be for our world.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's always helpful for me to remember that finding joy, experiencing joy is also part of the resistance, because it's so easy to just sit in the badness of it all. And there is a lot of that, but then there's also a lot of joy.
Yeah.
And joy that we create a lot of the times for ourselves too. So I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trying over here.
Trying and succeeding. Let's see. Ooh, what are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of my partnership with my husband right now, because we keep doing more against more odds every day as we get older and as we become closer than I can ever imagine. And to have a partner to be creative in this world with is beyond the gift. So today I'm proud of that partnership.
I love that. What are, the things you've used to build that partnership? The tools, that's what I'm looking for.
Tools are forgiveness, and like using that love tool more than anything else. Like we all have it. We have it for each other, not just in your partnership with someone, but remembering that who your teammates are, always being good to your teammates, recognizing intention, truthful intention, giving it space and energy, and what else? The tools. It's a good term. I like that. I don't know. I'll have to think about it some more, but
those are great. Those are great. Forgiveness is a huge one. Starting there too I think it connects the other things you're talking about as well with intentions, and you recognize the right intentions and such, you give space for the forgiveness, but something we can all use more practice with, I'm sure. And then do you want to talk about your space as well, your beautiful space you're building with your partner?
So gorgeous.
Yeah, gorgeous.
It's interesting because we've been setting up, getting it ready for the performance. And literally the day that before you guys came in, did we have the risers and the sheets in. So
right.
The day, hours before ATC came in, we had, and Culture was there. Excuse me, we had this legitimate stage. So we did that, and then we had the whole beautiful weekend, and then now I'm still recovering from it.
I'm sure.
Only really now just buckling into what it's going to be. We have another desk to build for somebody. We have the second movement studio. Part of that is going to be kind of my workspace. And we're just getting that all settled. And So it's been really cool to like keep pinching myself and getting moved in still,
Yeah,
getting settled. It's going to take a little while longer, but
of course, of
we
course.
have some guest artists around while it's happening. Jasmine Hearn, who went to what's it called? What's the I get these schools so much. What's it called downtown?
Duquesne?
No, the other university, the one with the dance department.
Oh, Point Park.
Point Park. Sorry, she's from Point Park. But has a whole career outside of Point Park in New York and here. She danced with us for a while, and she makes her own work. She's in Houston. She has a project called Memory Fleet, and she's here in residence for the next couple of weeks. She has a workshop you should take on Wednesday morning. What's that? Next week, the 7th or 8th or something. 9th. It's on the 9th. Not 10 a.m. And then we have another artist coming in right after her. So we'll be getting set, hosting them while we get ourselves settled and ready for our next season, which is coming right around the corner.
Wow. Whoa. So time. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into that. Is this posted somewhere?
Yes, on our website.
Oh, okay.
It's likely.
Lovely. I will look into that.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that is so exciting. That well, actually, maybe it'll follow from my first question. But I was remembering some of my other things that I should have written down and didn't. What you were talking about earlier through your process. So sorry for me jumping back. But you've had different experiences along the way. Talked about like trepidations, about health, and so what kind of has kept you going, and why have you kept going even in spite of everything?
No. No, it's like funny because we ask ourselves all the time, my creative friends and myself. No, it's just like this inner drive to, like, if I'm gonna be on this earth living, I have to live it the way I need to live it. That wasn't always, the case. It took a while to get there. It didn't. It was always the case, but I just didn't have the how pinned down. So it took a few years to figure out the how. Once I was like, well, it doesn't just happen. Duh. You have to, like, I guess it's the manifest thing. Like, you have to see these things through first and foremost, and then it shows up. But movement has always, like, once I just, like, it was always there, and it was like it was discovered there, and I was like, wow, this is it. And it doesn't show up just on stage work that I make. I feel like it's a part of everything I make and everything I am and do. And it kind of claimed me, and it's like, I just don't have any choices. But yeah, I have all the choices in the world because of this choice that has been made for me. And it feels bigger than me.
Wow. Yeah.
It really does. Because all logic has said to me, this is not a good idea. It's like, you can't make any money.
Right.
You can't, well, it's not completely true, but it's not one of the things that society tells you that is going to be a good way to make money. And I don't know who those people are and how they decide that. Because the truth is, you can't make money doing anything you don't love. Period.
That's a fact.
I mean, I guess you can, but you're more likely to enjoy life if you're doing something that you love, whether you make a ton of money or not. But you'll be fine and without any need for anything if you love the thing that you're doing.
That's a huge lesson. Yeah.
You have to be specific, though. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't just know the kind of, sort of. You have to know exactly what, and be willing to learn what that means too. So.
What was your process of the how? Like you said, so you knew it was movement, and then getting there.
like trial and error, and um allowing myself not to feel like I had to do all the things. Like, just because I can and love the ballet technique doesn't mean I have to like be in a ballet company or only make stuff that is ballet oriented, or you know what I mean? Like, and I think there was just like wanting, just allowing myself each experience fully to lead to the next thing. Because yeah, that's where you start narrowing things down. And going for the things, even though they seem larger than life and bigger than your world. That's just a messed up perspective that the world gives you. Like, there's anything too big. And just like whenever I took the biggest risk, that's where I learned the most, and that's what guided me most to whoever it is that I am right now.
Yeah.
There's no end to that. Like, people,
Right.
you know, they see you and you're like old as hell and or super accomplished at a young age or whatever, and they go, wow, look at them. And it's like, well, really, they're no different than you, and they're just at a different stage than you.
Right.
And sometimes they have a different level of confidence than you, but sometimes not. And their sheer will is what's making things quote unquote happen for them. But there's no destination.
Yeah.
That's what they don't tell you. There's no, just because, you know, say James Gilmer started dancing with Alvin Ailey at a very young age, that's not a destination. He's not done. You know what I mean? There's no time when he doesn't train anymore. There's no, and that should be for everything. It's like, you know, there's no arrival. He hasn't arrived anywhere. He's made a great achievement for himself, and he have to know he didn't do it by himself. He had lots of support, but he did it. He's the one that did it, and without his will and his drive and his, you know, soul's, you know, love for the field, and for whatever company he decides he wants to be in, it wouldn't happen. But it was definitely, you know, a group effort.
Yeah.
So, but when you grow up poor and Black, the world looks at you and says, well, why can't you do it? Why? And you go, oh my God, I am not worthy. I can't do, why can't I? You know, they don't remind you that you have all these roadblocks that were intentionally built in front of you so that you will not be able to.
Yep.
And nobody tells you that.
No.
Nobody tells you that. Your mama might tell you, your grandmother might tell you that you need to be 10 times better than that little white kid in your class. But they don't, but the whole story as it is, no one says, you know. Because I think that if they probably feel that, like your kinfolk, if you know the whole story, you'll just give up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a lot. And it's intentional. And it's like a built-in, you know. And now they're taking, don't even get me started.
I know. Yeah, it's like I don't know, there's a balance, because knowing too much, it can be over before it starts. Like you said, you don't even try. But then, so there's a little bit of bliss to ignorance. But you don't want to be so ignorant that you don't know what it is, you know, sometimes that you're facing or challenging. I think to a degree.
I think there's a need for everyone to know it all. Like, I wish I understood, and I think I had a pretty decent and realistic understanding of the world's circumstances early on. But it's the impact and the enormousness of it all. It's only like, I don't know if you can actually express that to a human being. The more I think about it, just trying to talk to you about it.
Hmm.
It's like there are times when I wake up and I go, and I feel the elephant sitting on my neck, and it's like, oh my God, he just ate another ice cream cone because it just gets heavier, and you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
place, wow, like, and I remember once answering a comment on something on social media years ago. And it dawned on me when I did it, they were like, yo, you make everything about race. Y'all make everything. And I was like, everything is about race. And that is the truth.
Yep.
Everything is about race because everything started back when y'all made it about race.
Right.
Massive.
Right. I
You know
mean,
what I'm saying?
everything's political.
Everything. Everything.
Yeah.
So.
Right. We're just trying to move through it, but like you said, it's not. We didn't decide to make it all about race. That's just what it is.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And it's not our fight.
Mm. Wow.
Period.
Period. I love. Okay, I'm like, well, how do I move on out of this?
Okay, ice cream.
Right. Yeah. What's your
Okay.
favorite flavor of ice cream?
I miss ice cream. You know, we get old, you can't eat ice cream. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, right.
I love chocolate ice cream.
Same. Same.
Yeah.
I love chocolate everything. I'm a big fan.
I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. Dark chocolate.
Gotta have it.
Gotta have it. No. Lovely. I have just a few more questions. Thank you also. This has been great. What advice do you have for emerging artists and community leaders?
Okay, so is there a reason why you put those two people in the same question?
You know, that's a great question. This was not initially my question, so let's just stick on.
Say this.
I mean, I think that yeah, those are two different questions.
I can address the subconscious connection, and that is because Black artists are always expected to lead their communities.
Yes,
and
right.
White and other artists aren't. They're just expected to be artists and show up and do what they do, however they do it, with any explanation as they want.
Right.
But we're always expected to uplift our communities and we do it naturally just by being who we are, doing the thing, because just by example, and also just by, you know, the natural inclination for artists to put a spotlight and a mirror to society. That's the artist thing, but a Black artist thing is also to make it better for the people around them one way or another, and we all do it one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
But the expectation of it from that's not even the world majority, it's the white supremacist world, which is the expectation of it from the Western world is outrageous and unfair. And I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
So do I want to make, what was the question? How do I do it?
Or what's your advice for them?
The advice for the young artists. Okay. To try everything, to do what feels good. Always. To address and acknowledge what doesn't, but go for your heart's desire all the time. And always, if you have a question about whether or not it's something you want to do, you have to try it. Period.
Love that. Love that. And what's your take two on like multiple passions? Because that's something you talked about, was like you had all of these different things you tried and you knew you couldn't, of course, do all of the things. You don't have to do all the things, but yeah, how do you whittle down having all those different passions, like ballet and then modern or whatever the case is? So you try it, and then
early on they would, you know, there were people in my life that would say, you can't do it all, so you have to pick. You're like a jack of all trades. And I understand that if you're trying to like impress one particular, you know, I don't know, if you're trying to get a job in a university versus trying to get into that program at the university, or trying to, you know what I mean? Like, or trying to get into a theater company, or it's, you have to narrow it down then because, but the truth is, I think you have to. I wish there was someone there to say you should do all the things that make you happy. You should do all the things, practice all the visual art techniques that make you happy. You don't have to stick with perspective drawing or like printmaking, or you don't have to stick with any one thing. You have to. There is no reason why you can't do and try it all. And maybe this project features movement and space. Maybe this other one features installation building with watercolor on the walls and also video. Like, you really just do have to do it all. You just have to be focused about doing it all. How and get organized. What is your organizational strategy? And how do you take care of yourself in the process? Absolutely. Those are questions you have to ask yourself while you're being an artist. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I follow a similar philosophy because I always felt like, like I feel like I'd hear the advice a lot too of just do what you're good at. But then, well, in my case, or like my thought process was like, well, if I don't try something else, who knows if I might be good at it or not. But also, if I don't continue and if I don't work at it, then I won't be good at it. You're not just like naturally going to fall into all of these things. So if you're not trying new things, you're not discovering other things you might like that you might potentially one day be good at. But there's just this like very narrow mindset a lot of times about that. And like you said, depending on what it is you're going for, maybe you have to narrow it down. But in life, it's like, why not experience the full breadth of all the things? So yeah, I resonate with that.
Good. That's what I always loved about ATC too, because it was a place for our kids to really love theater and musical theater, and get to try things that they wouldn't get to try in other places because you're not supposed to play that part because you are Black kid. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And the mission always being to do, like, to try and to be the strongest at what you do.
Yeah.
For sure.
Play. Lastly, where can, I think I kind of know, but where can people learn more about your work, the work you do, and follow along?
Sure. At our website, PearlArtsMovement.org. And what else? Yeah, we're there hanging out.
Yeah.
Come by the studio. You can. I don't know if there's a way to sign up to do a tour of the studio, but you can always email one of us or info at. But also we have classes and stuff.
Yes.
Sign up for those.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. This was great.